Did Derek Chauvin know George Floyd? And if they did they get along? What does this mean for the case? Although I usually work in the land of facts, only proven information, today we're going to go there. This is going to be a little bit different for me. We're going to speculate today. Let's imagine just for a moment that these things were proven in court. What could this mean? That's what we're talking about today. What's up, y'all? My name is Doug, and if you've seen any of my videos before, you know that I usually only work in facts. That's how police officers think. That's how cases are made, and that's how cases are beaten. So we got to talk about facts most of the time. But just for now, because of the recent information that's coming to light, the witnesses are saying certain things. Let's just assume that these things were proven, and then we'll speculate as to what this could mean for the case, where this case could go. You know that if you watch my other videos that I said that there's a few holes in the case that could present problems for the prosecution unless certain things happened. If the latest rumors are true, then those things are happening. Things that they needed, the prosecution needed to make a stronger case, seem to be happening if they can prove it. Proving it is a whole nother level, but let's just assume for a little bit that they did. So the big question is, did Derek Chauvin know George Floyd? In recent developments, a couple witnesses have come forward and said some things that appear to be damaging to the Derek Chauvin case. So only time will tell if the speculation we're hearing about now will be added to the big bag of facts that I always talk about. For a little background, police officers commonly work in Honolulu what we called special duty. Special duty is when an off-duty officer is hired by a private citizen or a private business for security or traffic control or something that it would benefit them to have a police officer doing. Most of the time, and in my experience, you do it through the police department. There's a third-party system when you bid for the job and things like that, but it's a way to make extra cash after duty. And it seems to be that Derek Chauvin worked special duty at a particular nightclub in Minneapolis. Where this is all coming from is that a man named David PINNEY says that he used to work at a nightclub in Minneapolis called NUEVO RODEO. PINNEY claims that Derek Chauvin knew George Floyd. They both worked at NUEVO RODEO. PINNEY claims that not only did they know each other, that they knew each other well, and that they used to bump heads. That they had beef, essentially. And the information doesn't stop there. There's also Maya Santamaria, the owner of the nightclub, NUEVO RODEO. She said that she'd been paying Chauvin for the last 17 years to sit outside in his squad car for officer presence, and that's really typical. Oftentimes when you have big gatherings or big events in nightclubs, they'll pay an officer to sit outside with his light on so that people know that the cops are there, and it really does affect how people act. They don't wild out because they know that cops are right there, and they know that's what they're there for. Oftentimes you'll have people inside the club as well for security, but it's nice to have that cop outside. It usually calms things down, especially for the line and for the gathering and for fights outside. So that seems to be the case here. And what Maya Santamaria is claiming is that Floyd also worked for her as a security guard. I guess every week on Tuesdays they had like this weekly dance battle. And it was a big event for them, so they would hire special duty officers like Chauvin, and they would have security in the club just like George Floyd. Let's pretend that all this was proven in court, that they could figure out a way to prove it, which is difficult to do, to prove anything in court. But let's say they did it. What does this mean for the case? What does this do? Right? We had Derek Chauvin, who seemed to be this cop that just responds to this fraud case where George Floyd was the suspect. He gets identified by the shop owner and he gets confronted by police officers. After he was confronted by the initial officers, Derek Chauvin as a secondary officer shows up on scene. Stuff gets a little crazy. George Floyd won't get in the car. They end up on the ground, and that's when Derek Chauvin put his knee on his neck and killed George Floyd. The reason that I thought that the prosecution was going to have a hard time proving second-degree murder was because Derek Chauvin was responding to a case. It seemed like Derek Chauvin wanted to murder George Floyd, but we all know that seemed like doesn't hold up in court. You got to be able to prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. I mean, that's huge. Initially, he got charged with third-degree murder, which I thought was the appropriate charge, considering what I thought you could prove. But then it got updated to the second-degree murder after the medical examiner's report came out. So what could this mean if this stuff is true, considering he's being charged for second-degree murder? Well, I'll tell you, I think this changes everything. If they can prove that Derek Chauvin knew George Floyd, didn't like George Floyd, and one of these other sneaky little facts that has kind of is haunting this case is the racism aspect, right? I've been strong on the fact that it's hard to prove racism, even in this case. Chauvin was a douchebag and he killed George Floyd. He's a killer, but it's hard to prove that he killed him because he was black. It does say in Maya Santamaria's statement that she believed Derek Chauvin was afraid and intimidated by black people. As of now, if they could prove and they could make a jury believe that Derek Chauvin was afraid and intimidated by black people, that he knew George Floyd, and that they didn't like each other, I think the Derek Chauvin case is in jeopardy of getting bumped to first-degree murder. I think it gives Derek Chauvin motive. Because without the motive for first degree, the intent to murder him, they're relegated to second or third. I would argue only third. It's hard to prove second degree. But if they can prove that he had this motive, that he didn't like him, if there's some documented thing where the club owner has like a report she made or she took notes, or there's some kind of video that proves this, Derek Chauvin could get prosecuted for first-degree murder or second-degree murder. The biggest part of this case will be the race. If he seems to be afraid and intimidated by black people, and if he gets scrutinized and his history and past gets scrutinized and people all come out saying, hey, if there's one thing you knew about Derek, you knew he didn't like black people, well then that's more motive. If we link this murder to race, it's all over for Derek Chauvin. And I will say that this also takes away another defense. I had made mention in previous videos the code black scenario. We have a terminology in police work and in military terms, code black. And it's when you freeze up. It's when you get stuck. It's when your brain ceases to process new information and it's glitching. This happens a lot. We know that it happens. It's a proven phenomenon. Things are very stressful. When you're overcome with fear. Some people handle that fight or flight mechanism, and some people freeze. They don't know what to do. I've seen it too much in police work. I've seen it where stuff gets nuts, and the new cop or the cop that doesn't have much experience goes code black. He doesn't know what to do. He freezes up. That puts him and other officers in danger, because now they got to watch out for him. I had a feeling that Derek Chauvin is going to go for a code black scenario. A lot of people wondered why he looked so cold and why he looked so emotionless when he was killing George Floyd. And I don't think you can prove that he didn't go code black based on the video. That's actually what code black looks like. We don't know if that's what he did, but him just looking around like nothing's happening, but there's basically a war going on around him. There's a guy underneath him that he's taking his life. There's other officers telling him we're going to roll him on his side. He's got excited delirium. There's people filming him, people screaming at him, telling him he's going to kill him. He doesn't do anything. Well, that's one or the other. He's either in code black or he's killing this guy. That's how it seems, right? Like he just doesn't care, which is why they went for that first charge of the third-degree murder, which is him not having any regard for his life. But if they can prove he knew him and that he didn't like him, and that he was scared and intimidated by black people, and that they had issues in the past, like video in the club, or someone willing to put in a statement that they heard him say that he hated black people or whatever, well, that takes away the code black scenario. It just does. It takes the meat out of it. I think this will help the prosecution. Is there anything that has come to light recently that would help Derek Chauvin's case and the defense? I don't think this helps him at all. I think that this is bad for the defense. And the bottom line is this could go to murder first. So we can all agree Derek Chauvin is a douchebag. We can all agree that he killed George Floyd. We watched it. But could they prove all these things? That's still the question. So if we imagine this world where they prove these things, that he was a racist, or that he was afraid and intimidated by black people, that he knew George Floyd and that he didn't like George Floyd, and that he had a history of run-ins with black folks at this club, and that George Floyd didn't like Derek Chauvin because of how he treated black people, it's motive to me. Now we got a new case on our hands. And then Derek Chauvin goes away for murder first, and then the cities don't burn anymore. So anyway, I will say that none of this has been proven, so just to stay consistent with my videos, you guys know that facts are very important here, and what we can prove is very important. Let me say that I can't prove any of this, and I don't know if anyone can prove any of this stuff now, but we'll see what happens. If you like the video, make sure you subscribe and hit that like button, and then ring the notification bell so you know when more videos are coming out. I'm going to continue to make videos about the case, updating you guys I know sometimes if you've never been in law enforcement or been an attorney, you don't really know how things work or why things are bogged down or seem like there's a lot of red tape. But that's the scenario here. We're going to keep analyzing the facts, and we're going to keep talking about what we know. And as the case evolves, we'll continue to pay attention to those things and evaluate and inform and let you guys know where things are going so that we can get our expectations right about this case and you can understand what's going on. So I appreciate all the support. Aloha.